Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Bills-Ravens pregame edition, Believe in Bills, presented by FanDuel. I am Adam Bonini of WGRZ TV, Sal Mayorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, and Vic Carucci, Sports Talk Live colleague of mine at WGRZ, SirusXM NFL Radio, Hall of Fame voter, all of those things. Gentlemen, it's finally here, and it's good to be on with you two esteemed veterans. This is terrific.
Well, gee, thanks, Adam. I appreciate that. The guy in the middle is a little more esteemed than I am, but, I'm glad to be in his company.
Esteem is a nice way of saying old, but I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're both more esteemed than me.
One of us is a grandfather, though, and one of us is not. So.
4 times. Yeah.
All right. Great stuff. And Vic, great to have you join us for some fresh perspective. Sal and I have kind of gone over a lot of this. Finally, Sunday night, there'll be a game to talk about. But as we kind of ramp things up, and there have been some questions as far as the injuries are concerned for the Bills, Sean McDermott, veiled. Tre'Davious White, again, not practicing. Tyler Bass not practicing, not ruling them out for the game. But, the kind of smoke screen that typically is, right? Either one of you, go ahead.
Yeah. I think, sure, we've all seen this or been around this game long enough to know competitively you keep those cards as close as you can to the chest. But if you're being practical, don't expect to see either one of them out there, and you have to be able to, and be ready to move forward with something. John Harbaugh certainly knows that, and their entire coaching staff in Baltimore, about what Sean McDermott and the Bills staff is going to do with both of those spots. Also know that Matt Prater was added to the practice squad, a veteran, kicker, 41 years old. Kickers tend to be better as they get older. That's kind of a thing, unlike a lot of, I would say, almost every other position in this game. But so I think the plans are in place, and we'll see. We'll talk more about, I know, the replacement for White, but yeah, they've got 2. They're not small issues, Sal, right? These are significant.
Well, yeah, I was there. I saw that when Trey White got hurt, they were in the stadium that day before the Tampa Bay game, and a bunch of us were in there when he got hurt, and you could tell it wasn't something easy. Now, it was weird. All along, we thought it was a knee or an ankle, and it only came out on Wednesday that they defined it as a groin. But you could tell that there was something. He did not look good that day. You felt like it was going to be a little bit of time. I honestly thought there was a chance he could have gone on IR before the season and missed 4 weeks. So they're hoping that it's not going to be a situation that would keep him out 4 weeks. They're kind of crossing their fingers, I think, with that. But he's not going to play this week. He hasn't practiced since that was February or August 21st. That was. There's no way he's playing if he hasn't practiced in 3 weeks. And then with Tyler Bass, it was weird, guys, because he didn't do anything at Fisher, and then even when they got back to Buffalo, he kicked in the Tampa Bay game, and he made, 3 field goals. He missed the shorty.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it was 2 field goals and 2 extra points, which
I think he was 3 for 4. I think you're right.
Okay.
He missed the 26-yarder, I think it was.
Yeah, he missed the chippy, which could have been anything. It's just, whatever. And he kicked off well in that game. I thought he did a good job on kickoffs, because now there's a little bit of skill. You can't just blow it through the end zone anymore. So it was really surprising that all of a sudden he's not practicing when they got back to Buffalo. So they had in 3 kickers last week, didn't sign any of those guys. It's just funny to me how they determine these kickers, Vic. They had 3 guys in last week. They all didn't pass the sniff test. And then Matt Prater comes strolling in here, 41 years old, and they sign him to the practice squad. So that was a little bit strange. But look, he's going to be kicking Sunday. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, and I was telling Adam before we got on to, Vic, kickers are kickers, right? They're basically interchangeable. You've got a few guys who are great, but generally, guys 5 through 30 are pretty much the same guy.
Yeah,
in most cases. So and it's not late in the season here in Buffalo, right? The weather's going to be fine, so that should be fine for him.
Yeah, I'd add this, guys, when it comes to the kicking, this situation. First of all, let's back it up with Bass a bit. I feel like going into the year, say there was no injury issue, there'd still be that roller coaster sense about the guy, right? I mean, you're just not, he had too many struggles last year from very makeable distances that were troubling. And that's I think the lasting image of Tyler Bass 2024, and made people I say people, the fan base, uncomfortable. Two, you mentioned that Tampa game, and it felt like Sean McDermott wanted that game to sort of be the sew it up, like put an exclamation point on a preseason that had been almost non-existent for the guy, and training camp, and had those opportunities for makeable field goals, right? 30, I think it was 37 yards. They were under 40, but then he gets up to the last one, 26 yard, the chip shot, and that's the one he misses, and that's the one you say, okay, is this more Tyler Bass drama, and something for this team to worry about? Now, of course, with the reason being that injury, or at least that being in the conversation, you get Prater, and to your point, the kicker dime a dozen thing, they actually have a guy who has a level of accomplishment. I mean, you look at his career, the body of work, in 19, I think this is 19th season for him. And he's in now, because he's kicked that long, he's in top 6, I guess, in multiple categories. And at one point regarded as one of the better kickers in the league. But, we'll see what it means now in 2025 for him.
I think kickers are like golfers, Vic. As long as they keep that swing in good shape, they can play for a long time. So I think it'll work out fine until Bass gets back.
Well, the hope is obviously you're right, Sal. You know who really aren't like golfers? Defensive backs, right? And the Baltimore Ravens will be, first on the list of teams, and they'll all be circling the Buffalo secondary at this point. So with Hairston out, White status being what it is, I mean, you have Benford, right? You have the situation at safety, and Sal and I have talked about this. Vic, I'll start with you. I mean, I really feel like they're going to be fairly vulnerable back there, especially early.
I agree. This is really the first, and what a test for what presumably is the weakest area of this football team right now, or at least the one that has the greatest question mark over it, the back end of this defense. And it would have been a question mark if it was a healthy Max Hairston able to start. And I don't know that his injury knocked him out of the starting lineup, by the way, because I didn't see a guy in training camp up to that injury who looked to me like he was ready to be a starter out of the gate. I thought maybe bring him along or whatever, and let Tre'Davious White be that mentor that I think he was being. To have both of them hurt and now find yourself with the likelihood of Dorian Strong, a rookie, stepping into that position, and I don't know, maybe they're going to do some rotation with Ingram. I'll defer to Sal on that, watching the different combinations. But my sense is that you're going to put a rookie out there, like very likely on Sunday night, and that's Lamar Jackson, who can shred top end veteran defensive backs with a passing game and a passing attack. And I'm thinking of Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator. What do you think that game plan's looking like? Yeah, as Adam just said, big red circle around Bill's secondary, and that's just the corners. We also know safety is in a position that you're sitting there saying, yeah, they got that rock solid.
This is about the worst opener the Bills could have possibly had, and this is even if they were healthy, Vic. This is the most balanced team on offense, Baltimore, that I think there is in the league. You look at what they did last year, leading team rushing, 188 yards a game. And then people forget Lamar Jackson had a very good chance or a very good case to win the MVP award. Yeah. And some people think it was stolen from him and given to Josh Allen. He threw for 4,100 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 4 picks. So pick your poison with this team on offense. The Bills defense has got a tremendous test in front of it. And as you just laid out, they go into it with a secondary that I think is a bit of a mess. Look, I mean, I never thought Maxwell Harrison was going to start in week 1, even if he had stayed healthy. I just didn't sense that from early on. And once they had signed Trey White, you kind of figured, well, he's going to start. They'll work in Harrison when he's ready. But then you watch Trey White all summer, Vic, before he got hurt. Look, this is not all pro Trey. All right. Fans have to remember that this is not the guy pre-injury in 2021 who was a Pro Bowler and an all-pro player. He is a mediocre cornerback at this point in his career. And now he's got a third injury that he's had to deal with in the last 3 years. So I was already skeptical, even if he had stayed healthy and started, that was going to be a problem. And then we've outlined the safety issue forever on this show and everywhere else. We don't know. Taylor Rapp is fine. Cole Bishop's a major question mark. So yeah, it's not a good, to me. I can't think of a worse opener that the Bills should be facing than against Baltimore mainly because of that secondary.
Well, and Sal, as you pointed out in your pregame article at the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle too, I mean, the Bills obviously made a big investment defensively up front, and they're going to have some youth up there. Yeah. That gets put to the test. Not only, you hope that Bosa can stay healthy and, be a major factor as Von Miller was prior to his injury. You have the investment they made. You have the challenge, which, by and large, a good portion of the time, you look at Lamar Jackson's numbers against Buffalo, right? They've been able to limit him in a measurable way. But again, with everything that this team presents with Jackson, the receiving core, Derrick Henry, it's not just the secondary where they're going to get tested.
Yeah, well, you're right. Absolutely. I mean, the defensive line, we knew Hoyt and Ogunjobi weren't going to be available. And I don't think Landon Jackson will be getting a game day jersey. I think they're going to go with, the veteran edge rushers there. I think Solomon will probably be the fourth guy. But those two guys in the middle, now that Dwayne Carter is out and we know Ogunjobi's out, those guys are going to have to play. They're going to dress 4 D tackles, and 2 of them are going to be rookies. So, they were all exuding some confidence. I was over there Wednesday, and they were loving life, and they're confident. They can't wait. Well, hey, Derrick Henry, boys, good morning, good afternoon, good night to the NFL, pal. It's going to be a hell of a way to start your NFL careers against that team. Vic, I hate this matchup for the Bills. I really do.
Well, I understand what you're saying as a matchup, and timing goes into this too. Let's keep in mind, things do change in the course of a season. Having this team now, when it feels like the vulnerability is there and would have been there, maybe despite the health issues that have come up in the back end for sure. And when you look at the defensive line, which if there is a Michael Hoyt there, if there is a Larry Ogunjobi there, and you're beefier in the middle, okay, the ability to handle what Derrick Henry can bring would be probably better. But and here's the other thing: we're going to look at that defensive front Sunday night. Come mid-season, it could have a drastically different look, right? We know that because of the suspensions ending, but for the start of the season, and I guess this could be a good point to transition to this. This team in the last 4 years is 2-2 in season openers. Those openers, and what were the Jets and the Rams where they didn't do so well, but it's at home, and in the Josh Allen era, Sean McDermott era at home, they look pretty invincible. I know this Baltimore team, at their worst, the Bills get trampled by them, and we saw that last season at Baltimore, and it was a game that just eroded right from the beginning with Derrick Henry's long run, touchdown, and so forth, and what truck just hit them. But at its best, I guess it is that playoff game where it's toe to toe. It's right at the end. It takes us also back to the conversation of who's kicking field goals, because I have a feeling that yes, Matt Prater, welcome to the Buffalo Bills. And oh, by the way, you might just very well be the guy that wins this game for them.
Well,
or Tyler Loop for them. It's not Justin Tucker anymore. They've got a rookie kicker going in.
Yeah, it's not Justin Tucker.
All right, so let's kind of go to that playoff game a little bit, right? I mean, look, Baltimore was dominant in a lot of ways. If it weren't for the 3 turnovers and the Andrews drop, right? I mean, they outgained him. I had the number, and it's 416 to.
It was like 413 to 267, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, almost 270.
I mean, so both offenses remain. I mean, we're going to get into some of the changes for the Bills, obviously, with the receiving core and that sort of thing. But by and large, I mean, these teams address defense in the offseason, right?
And the Bills, the Bills had to, right? The Bills had to,
of course, and as the Ravens did during the course of last season, where they needed to correct some things, and then continued that process in the offseason. So I guess the kind of a broad question is overarching. How much has the dynamic changed? I understand the carryover issue and the lack thereof and all of those things, but from an X's and O's standpoint, right, how much of the dynamic has really changed between these two teams?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's all that much of a difference, right, Vic? I mean, Baltimore is a team that, because they've been so good, they've always had star players. They've usually lost people in free agency at a higher rate than they did this past offseason. They brought a lot of their guys back. They kind of retooled. They added Malachi Starks in the draft, Mike Green, who could become a really good pass rusher for them. So they got better without losing too many people. And the Bills typically don't lose free agents, right, Vic? Usually Brandon Beane moves on from guys. They don't usually have people that teams pay big, huge contracts to take. The Bills kind of decide when to move on from people. And this year they did a nice overhaul on the defense, and they absolutely had to do that. Their offense, though, Vic, they bring back 10 starters, and you could argue the 11th, Josh Palmer, is going to give them more than Amari Cooper ever did. So they're probably, if it's possible, even better on offense this year.
Well, that remains to be seen. I mean, it's a fair point you make at that receiver position, but I'm still looking at a group that doesn't, overwhelm in any possible way, that it's still all about whether Josh Allen can elevate this group the way he elevated last year's group. It's still the everybody eats thing, which means, you don't have any dominant player at the table, getting seconds and thirds or fourths. And the dynamic, game-breaking presence, where is that? Because the best guy they have catching passes is Khalil Shakir, and his best quality is steady Eddie, is consistency, really good hands, really good routes, just a presence of mind that I think an offense, a smart player that does the right thing, and I think those are all elements that are helpful. They don't necessarily strike fear in the opponent, but when you look at the Ravens defense, it is really good. It's loaded with first-round talent across the board, especially on the back end. You're right. They develop stars back there. I say stars, high-quality players that can draw a lot of interest. The Bills do not. The Bills have nobody of a high name recognition beyond Josh Allen, because that's how they're built, in terms of league-wide all-pro, having that cachet. They don't. And to your point, Sal, that's how they design it. From the Bills standpoint, yes, the draft was devoted. I think they did the right thing by trying to get, upgrade their front. And this is Brandon Beane's loud message that says, I'm delivering these guys. Let's make this work, right? To the coaching staff, I think. I'm giving you some. I mean, in TJ Sanders, not so much size, but a three technique trader, a one tech in Deion Walker, massive guy who, if he finds his way, I think could be effective. I don't know though that I'm going to see either of those rookies. We know where Hairston's going to be watching. How much of an impact? And you mentioned that the other the other pick was probably not going to suit up. So
Jackson.
Landon
Jackson. Yeah, Jackson.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think, Vic, I think Brandon Beane said this April or last April, we have an offense that scored 525 points, Sean, and I just signed a free agent wide receiver for you. How about find a defense that doesn't give up 368 points and 47% on third down? Let's fix that. So let's hope that he found some guys who could help. We're probably not going to know about some of these guys because they're rookies for a little while. We're certainly not going to know anything about Ogunjobi and Hoyt to what they can bring for 6 or 7 weeks. So right now, this period, Vic, is a very interesting time for the Bills defense. They've got to come together, and they are kind of fortunate that after the Ravens, things you would think technically lighten up a bit. They've got some, the Jets, Miami, the Patriots coming to Buffalo, the Saints. There are some teams there where they can get fat early, but they got to get past this first game first.
All right. So you kind of teed up. So Vic and I spoke along with Mark Gahn, formerly of the Buffalo News, at a charity function here in the North Towns a couple of nights ago. And it was kind of an open forum, and fan Sal could ask questions. And Vic, how quickly and how constant was the focus on McDermott? And that very point that, was just made, that, he's been given some tools now. So, and Sal and I have talked about it. It's hard with the success they've had to envision Terry Pegula. Is this a Super Bowl bust kind of a thing? Super Bowl or bust kind of a scenario for, what's at stake for Sean McDermott this season, given the history, given the time he's been at the helm, and given what they've accomplished and maybe A1, and the larger point, what they haven't at this point.
Well, the time is the thing. This is season 9, right? So to use an Al Davis quote that a lot of teams believe, I don't know how often it's mentioned now as much as it was earlier in the days that I was covering this league, but Al Davis would say 10 years is about the shelf life for a head coach and his message to remain effective with the core of a team. Now, rosters turn over, so you do have new ears hearing that message, but you begin to wonder if, the approach and things start to get a little stale in that 10th year. For his part, though, I will say Sean McDermott has made an effort to kind of change things up a bit in the way he approaches them. I think he's very conscious of that. To his credit, smart enough to know that you can't do it the same way all the time. He's made adjustments on this coaching staff. Repeatedly, some forced by, a Brian Daboll going to become a head coach of the Giants. But in general, it's been, tweaking and fine tuning areas like special teams, like the defensive backfield, to get these assistants in place, positional people in place. And I sense, and the biggest, most recent being Joe Brady taking over for Ken Dorsey, and how that probably was I would say the most dramatic move on his part to realize the course of the whole program could have been, in his mind, going off the rails, and that put it back on. And it's fair to say that that's true. Although, again, you got Josh Allen at quarterback, things can fix themselves with him there. So if we're getting to this 10-year point and they're still not a Super Bowl team, they're a team that gets to the playoffs and exits the playoffs, what's the fan base's sort of feeling or discomfort, and how much does that really matter? They've sold a good portion of those PSLs that they need for the new stadium. The new stadium's best marketing device is this current team, is Josh Allen and the Bills. That's what's selling the seats, selling the excitement, selling hope, which is something the Bills have long done better than many other teams. And I think Terry Pegula sits back there, unless there are other voices in his ear, and maybe there are going to be, telling him to think about making a move or making a change. The bust part is where I struggle, because I don't know who is a better choice, A, and B, if you moved on from Sean, say after the season, say just for conversation's sake, he's getting hired by another team in about 5 minutes or less.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just like Andy Reid did when the Eagles said goodbye to Andy, and teams were pulling. He was about to get on a jet to go up to Seattle.
No. Sorry, guys. Let me mute it and deal with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Kansas City grabbed him. Go ahead, Sal. Yeah.
I'll say this, the Al Davis quote. I remember the quote too, because I'm as old as you are, but I'll say this about that. And John Madden did coach 10 years, by the way, right? He coached exactly 10 years and called it quits. It was a different league back then, though, right? There wasn't free agency. There wasn't the salary cap. You had a team back then for 10 years, and a lot of that roster stayed the same. You did minor tweaks to it. I would think in defense of McDermott, like you said, he has changed with the times. He has changed things up as he's gone along, different coaches. And obviously the roster gets churned every year. Every year we're looking at, as many as 15, 16, 17 players are new from the year before. And even the core guys, the guys that you've built your team around, for instance, Stephon Diggs, he was there 4 years and he was out. A lot of those pieces get turned over. And I think people don't recognize or give McDermott enough credit to realize that he's been able to take these moving parts and still keep the franchise moving in the direction it's moved. I mean, 17 years of no playoffs, and they've gone to the playoffs 7 times in 8 years with this guy, and they've made 2 conference championship games. And I know it pisses off Bills fans that they have not won that game to get to the Super Bowl, let alone win a Super Bowl. But I think his sustained success with, 5 straight division titles, probably going to be 6 this year, I think that gets kind of poo-pooed way too much. And like you said, Vic, you fire Sean McDermott, who are you bringing in? I mean, who's going to – now you're going to bring in somebody and take this team that has been so carefully crafted, and you're going to blow it up with a new guy and a new philosophy. None of that makes sense to me. Now, McDermott goes on and has 3 losing seasons, then let's move on and get a fresh face. But right now,
I'm not sure it would even take that. I mean, if you start talking underachievement in the regular season, then that's a different different conversation. And Mark Gahn brought this point up the other night. If you are going to move on from Sean McDermott, and I'm not necessarily so, by the way, our 10-year-old cockapoo obviously has an opinion,
strong opinion,
situation strong. It would have to be, Mark used the name like Steve Spagnuolo as an example, right? Yeah. It would have to be someone of, with a tremendous pedigree for success. I'm not saying they would do that, but if you are, Sal, you asked the question, who you're going to bring in, I would think it would have to be someone like that. But when you're in this window with a Josh,
but those are we're back to, that's a retread conversation. I love and respect what Steve Spagnuolo has done as a coordinator. He had a shot as a head coach as well. But Steve, it's tough to make the case that that you've got something better in. I'm not putting it on him. We're using that name. You got a better answer. And I don't think Terry has any appetite to go down that road at all, because he doesn't, because it's hard. And, the last time he went through this, remember, first of all, with Rex Ryan, he had Doug Whaley and Russ Brandon, who essentially guided that hire. And they appreciated the fact that at the end of the day, to simply put, Rex would do his thing, they would do their thing, and it would work out for both. Things changed dramatically with Sean coming aboard, which this was more defined as a Terry and Kim Pegula hire. They did much, if not most of the conversation that led up to getting the deal done. Terry in particular told me that he really honed in on Sean's wrestling background and that nomadic sort of thing, like when you're trying to train and do your best when nobody's watching type of thing. That really stuck with with Terry. And I'm not, look, people will jump in and say, yeah, well, how's it going with the Sabres and the picks there? Let's keep that conversation out of this for the moment. They did the right thing in 2 ways. They hired Sean McDermott and then brought along Brandon Beane after the draft. And then the best thing they've done is let them do their jobs, stay out of their way.
Well, that was the mandate. That was the mandate.
Hang on. Breaking news here.
Oh,
Tyler Bass to the IR.
Yeah, there you go. 4
Tyler
games.
Bass injured reserve. So that's at least 4 games.
All right.
And they've listed Trey White as doubtful, which we knew. But the news there is Tyler Bass going to be out 4 weeks. So Matt Prater, it is your turn, at least for week 1.
Yep. There you
go.
All
right. Well, and that doesn't come as much of a surprise given how long this pelvic thing, has nagged, right, with Bass. So they make that move, and now we're completely updated here. But back to the point that Vic just made, that was the mandate when McDermott came in. He was like, "You're going to let me run this thing." They've taken quite the opposite approach with the Sabres, right? And I don't want to go down that and have that discussion, but philosophically, in terms of ownership, they've chosen 2 different paths there, and the results speak to that. Now, what they also did, obviously, and this would be true of any franchise, is hit on Josh Allen, 7th overall, 2018, and then the Ravens on Lamar Jackson at the end of the first round. So I guess the question is, now you look at these now that they've both won MVPs and the great debate last year, and in Jackson's case, multiple MVP awards. What do they both still lack, right? Super Bowl. And Allen's been better in the postseason than Jackson has as well. So I guess that's what's held over great players for their careers is championship success. And Sal, I'll start with you on this one. I certainly feel that you're looking at 2 teams. I mean, FanDuel has the Ravens at plus 700 to win the Super Bowl, along with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Bills at 750. I mean, so you're looking at two true contenders in terms of what we're about to see at the beginning of the season, who people and the odds makers expect to be standing at the end of it.
Yeah. And speaking of FanDuel, they also have the Ravens guys as the favorite now. This game has flipped. Early in the week, the Bills were 1 to 1.5, and now I looked at it just a little while ago that FanDuel's got them. The Ravens are now minus 1.5. So it's interesting how the money's coming in on this game. Look, both of these teams they're 2 of the 3 best teams in the conference, but they're not going to get the respect they deserve until they get past the Chiefs and go to a Super Bowl. There's just no, Allen and Jackson can win as many MVPs as they want, but the ultimate respect is going to come when you get to a Super Bowl. And that's going to have to happen sooner or later for these guys. I truly believe that these 2 teams are going to be in the Final Four this year. And I hate to tell you, but I did make my Super Bowl pick for Believe, and I picked Ravens over the Eagles. So I'm going to say that the Bills don't do it again this year, and I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people that are listening to this right now, but sorry, that's how I feel when I look at these rosters. But that's what it's going to take for Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen to get the ultimate respect.
Yeah. Beltway Super Bowl. I like that. I am, I last year had picked Kansas City, but I had them playing the 49ers instead of the Eagles. I know this is going to sound so homerish, but I am going Bills because I just don't see a clear reason to think that they can't with Josh Allen there. And yes, I voted for Josh to be MVP on the weighted voting of 1 through 5. So call that a homer pick. It wasn't. I had voted for Lamar the year before when he did win it, and I got a lot of crap for that from Bills fans. Is there any reason to look at this team and say they can't get it done? Because for all those points, and I don't dispute anything you're saying about the Ravens makeup and roster. It was really damn good last year. It's been really good. Every year that number 8's been their quarterback, okay? And still, they stumble and fall in the postseason. And I would make the case that their stumbling and falling in the postseason has had a worse look than the Bills' stumbles and falls in the postseason. Yeah. Am I being
right?
Okay.
No, so you're right.
So I'm right. All right. I'm right. I think
they've only made 1 conference championship game. Buffalo's made 2, and they've lost earlier sometimes than Buffalo has in the postseason.
And except for that Cincinnati game, Buffalo, Cincinnati, which still defies explanation as to why they were ill prepared, why they were, I'd say, woefully ill prepared. And again, you could make that straight line, dotted line to coaching on that and say, okay, why, coach, you didn't have them ready. They felt, and I remember Matt Milano, who hardly says a word, said words to the effect of that they looked flat, that they were flat right after that game. And I mean, they owned it, but yes, you could, well, they had injury. Okay. And it was the odd year with the injury, DeMar Hamlin and all that, the carryover, I should say, psychologically, but that's a lot of excuse making. This team is not that different from last year, possibly better at receiver, as you point out, Sal, with Josh Palmer. I got to believe it when I see it, and I've got to see Keon Coleman look better and play better, and I know there's a health issue with him. I got to see Dalton Kincaid actually look like, as he's been described by his quarterback, the best, one of the best tight ends in the league. I think he's far from that until he shows it.
I'm not believing that yet either.
Yeah.
That's a friend patting a friend in the back, and that's cool. And I've got, and yes, I've got to see this defense make some stops and not force the offense to produce 30 plus points a game to win a game, but they can do it. And they certainly were so close a year ago, have been close previously in this window. And I'm not looking at the Bills and saying, yeah, this is a fall off year for them. I don't know why I would even feel that.
No, I think they're better this year, and the schedule is very favorable, but we all know it's going to come down to key moments, in a postseason game. And I would tend to edge with the Bills. I mean, it's so hard to make that kind of a prediction now, and I'm not looking to get myself off the hook here, but I feel like Allen has elevated his game to another level. The limiting of the turnovers, that sort of a thing, the maturity, how he evolved. We really saw it last season. Obviously, the MVP, comes with that, but I feel like he is at that level. I mean, they have a very, very good opportunity if they stay healthy, especially given the schedule and how things may play out. I think if they can be, have home field and that sort of a thing, to win the Super Bowl. All right. We've gone almost 40 minutes here, which doesn't surprise me with the two of you, encyclopedias. And so it's time to wrap it up and enjoy the weekend until Sunday night. Sal, what do you have coming up in the DNC? What can people look for?
Yeah, my game preview is already out there, but the big thing we're doing, Adam, and you already know about it, but we're doing this 53 years of the stadium. I'm doing memories of all the games that I've seen there. So the last couple just published. Vic wasn't around for the one that came out today, 1979 home opener. I was there as a teenager in the stands watching your old pal Tom Dempsey shank a 33-yard field goal wide right, and the Dolphins beat him for the 18th time in a row. So that's the one that's up there. But the one that went up yesterday, you were there for, opening day 1991, Kelly versus Marino, the great shootout. So those are going to go on all year long. And I also just had a story that kind of kicked it all off about the fight that it took to build the stadium, again, before Vic's time and obviously mine, but all the political infighting and Ralph Wilson almost moving the team to Seattle, and that was quite a story. So it's been a fun thing to research and write.
It's been fantastic to read, and you do such a tremendous job with the history. That's been one of your great, I think, fortes, going way back to when we were on the beat together, putting together multiple books chronicling that. You're the human reference book on the Buffalo Bills for a lot of us. And I mean that as the greatest compliment. Looking forward, Adam, to this weekend. I love that the game is on our air on WGRZ. I love that that it opens the season there. It's Sunday night football. It ramps up the excitement, and we're going to have that coverage, the pregame show from Orchard Park. It's going to be a long night, obviously, of game, and then coverage and writing and on-air stuff post-game, and then the following our first Monday night edition of Sports Talk Live Buffalo. So busy stretch here, but I feel it. It's like I'm ready for this. Yeah.
A pregame at 6:30, then into Football Night in America, then after the game itself, extended post game and locker room coverage. Obviously, you mentioned Sports Talk Live on Monday night, and Sal, you and I will be live on YouTube with some post game reactions Sunday night as well. So, gentlemen,
for all those night owls who will be paying attention at that time,
thanks to the both of you. A pleasure as always, and thank you for joining us here on Believe in Bills.